When we think about this notion of the pleasure hub, we're not just focusing on the idea of how increasingly many of us will find ourselves taking business calls by the swimming pool when we're on holiday. It's really more about the idea of how we actually think about incorporating play and rest and leisure into the business environment. It isn't just about the things that we do on holiday or at home, it's also about the changing nature of what we expect in the work environment. We expect to be able to take time out, step away from our desks, to have a breather, to play in a work environment, or to be able to just relax and engage in all sorts of different surroundings. So increasingly, the way that many of us are expecting a traditional leisure environment to provide business solutions too, whether it be a hotel foyer, or a cafe, or a bar, or, as Daljit mentioned earlier, a coffee shop. That idea of how suddenly 1 minute we want to be a space that is just about conviviality, having a quiet cup of coffee, meeting a friend for a chat, but the next person that you may be meeting after your 10 o'clock meet could be 11 o'clock business appointment. And maybe you need the space to respond slightly differently. Maybe you want the light hood to actually come down to give you a more enclosed environment where you can have a more confidential or more private business conversation. But that idea of increasingly how spaces are expected to accommodate both work and play is really what we're looking at within the notion of pleasure. I think the growth of the space within the space, the house within the house, is something we're going to see a lot more of. And it was very interesting for me to arrive here at Bulo and find exactly that here when we arrived. Similar to this notion of the space within the space. Here you can see what's being defined as a sublimity space, or in fact the monastery created by Eriksson Surgeon architects in Oslo, to create a space that does exactly what Peter's just described. To give you the opportunity to step away from your desk, put away your mobile phone, to be laptop free, to be PC free, and to just go to a space in which you can sit, reflect, and have a moment of sublimity. The modern monastery, the secular monastery, space within the working environment that isn't about this obsessive kind of desire we all have to show that we're being productive by doing this for as much time as possible. If I'm not doing that, I'm not busy. And that sense, I think, of how so much of what we define ourselves as work, as Daljit said, is now about how we engage with technologies, is providing solutions, but also creating problems. And I think this idea of the sublimity space is becoming more and more important, allowing us that moment for time off. A new generation of professionals are going to demand new types of spaces. We're witnessing the emergence of spaces, ideas, and a work philosophy that will counter the sometimes frenetic and temporal nature of the workspace. That's what we've created as a workspace, somewhere that often I think is very stressful, very frenetic, but is also very, very temporal, and increasingly we believe the workspace of the future will potentially be more like this.
Yeah, and thinking about, a frenetic environment, this is the complete antithesis of frenetic, isn't it? This is a place where it looks like this chap here is doing absolutely no work at all. But the fact is, just because there isn't the evidence of the work, i.e. typing into a keyboard or writing a list, that doesn't mean there isn't actually something happening, the cogs are turning. And this idea that technology is always there to make us more efficient and more productive is actually being kind of nullified by our direct relationship to it. Yeah. So 50% of a knowledge worker's day, half of your day is spent managing information.
That idea that the majority of us in this room, that's what we are knowledge workers, that 50% of our time is spent just managing stuff, not actually creating or doing something, just managing, and that by default we therefore become less productive, I think is really quite shocking. The idea that actually I could just leave after lunch, because what am I going to do for the rest of the day that's really productive? If I were to better manage my time and to actually rethink how I structure my day, could I spend more time away from the office? could I spend time sitting here and actually coming up with the solutions that would make my business more profitable, instead of just trying to write a list of all the things I need to do and all the meetings I need to have? And that idea, I think, of rethinking how we actually categorize productive professionals is also what this is about. Creating the space for productivity, finding ways to enable the productive employee of the future to really actually give us their full potential.